Hey y'all, it is your girl, the theet.danaeee, and I'm back with another video. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, hey girl. Well, anyways, today I'm giving the tea, okay? I'm giving the tea. This is a story time, so y'all already know I'm giving the tea. But anyways, yeah, this story time finna be exclusive, okay? So y'all need to go get grab y'all snacks real quick or do whatever y'all gotta do, cause yeah. But anyways, okay, I don't even know where to start because this day was crazy. And the crazy part about it is this situation probably happened like, I want to say maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. No, yeah, it was about 3 or 4 years ago. But the same exact day today is the day that it happened. And it's just a coincidence that I was recording a story time for it today. So anyways, let's go. So I'm going to give y'all a little rundown on my ex. So me and him, we got together in 2015. We was together all the way up until 2017, no, I think like 2018. We was like on and off a lot though. And when I say on and off, like when we first got together, our relationship was not like this. Like it was just like, I don't know, like it was just a normal relationship, you know, like it was just normal. And then after the first year of us being together, he just started going crazy. Like he was so toxic. Like it was just, our relationship was just so toxic. Like we would break up every other day. Like literally, like when I say every other day, I mean every other day. Like it got to the point to where we couldn't even sit in a room together. If somebody put us in a room together for 24 hours and told us not to argue about shit, it wouldn't happen. Like literally, like he would try to argue about the smallest stuff, get into it about the smallest stuff. We would break up almost every 2 days, every other day. Like it was crazy. And so like when I say like he was toxic, it got to the point to where he was the type of toxic, like he wanted to talk to other people and do what he wanted to do, but then when it came to me doing what I wanted to do, oh, best believe he had a problem with it, right? So when we would break up or whatever, and he found out that I would be talking to new people, he would be trying to tell me stuff about them people or like say stuff about them. So like I would stop talking to them, like type stuff. Keep that in mind. So I'm like, he was just too controlling. He was manipulative. Like that's not even like this stuff that I'm telling y'all, this story time is not even half of what I went through with him. Like it was crazy. But anyways, so mind y'all, me and him always break up all the time. One time, this very day, we got into it over something. I really don't even remember what it is, but we got into it, broke up. This time I told him like I'm done. Like I'm not finna keep doing this stuff with you. Like I'm done. And at that time I wasn't even completely done. But I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm not finna keep doing this with you. If you're gonna break up, if we're gonna break up, like we just gonna go our separate ways and just call it that. Like who finna keep playing these games? So he like, okay, he agreed, like whatever, like type stuff, da da da. So this was one of the longest times that we had ever been like broken up not together. And it had to be like, I want to say maybe like 2.5 months. Like yeah, like 2.5 months. So with that being said, when we broke up, I started talking to somebody else because I'm like, yeah, like I was happy. I'm like, I'm fresh out of a relationship, a toxic relationship. Like I'm finna do what I want. Like don't get me wrong, our relationship was so I was already doing what I want, but I'm like, yeah, now I can really do what I want and can't nobody say nothing to me about it, like type stuff, you know. So I started talking to this boy, and the boy just so happened to go to my ex school. So this is the part where I'm going to give them 2 names. So my ex, his name is going to be Crazy. And the boy that I was talking to, his name is going to be Cool. So Me and Cool, I don't remember exactly how we met, but yeah, I don't remember exactly how we met, but I had started talking to him, and him and Crazy just so happened to have a class together. And so one day, like, we was on the phone, he told me like Crazy and da 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 is this girl that he was like, they be talking about you in class. And I'm like, what you mean? He like they be talking about you, like they be having conversations about you. And he was like, I don't know if it's like I know this just because like we talk now or whatever. He was like, or if they doing it on purpose because they know that we talk or whatever. Like, I don't know. He was like, but that shit is irritating. Like, they do it every day. And so I'm like, that's just him. Like, I had already knew that him and da 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 used to be having conversations about me in a little class or whatever, but that's irrelevant. But the thing is, I told him, I'm like, don't nobody know that we talk. I'm like, on my end, I know that don't nobody know that we talk, but my friends, and my friends don't have outside friends. Like, we was a friend group, so I'm like, don't nobody know that we talk unless you're going around telling people that we talk. And even still to this day, probably don't nobody even know that we talk for real. Like, because we don't even consider ourselves talk. Like, we just think like of each other being cool. So yeah, so he like, nah, he like, only my homeboys know. But other than that, like, they're not finna go around like saying like, oh yeah, like Cool talk to Tanaja, like type stuff or whatever. So keep that in your mind. We didn't tell nobody that we was talking to each other. Like, we never went public or nothing. So I'm like, yeah, that's weird. I'm like, but I'm like, I know they be talking about me. I don't care. So within that conversation, he like, do you want to go to the movies this weekend or go on a date this weekend? Because this very weekend was my school's homecoming week. So I wasn't going to homecoming that year. So he asked me like, did I want to go somewhere or do something since neither one of us was going to homecoming? So I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, what we gonna do? He like, let's go to the movies. And so me, the type of person I am, I don't go on dates with people. I don't like, I mean, okay, at the time I was young. Like, let me throw this in there because I was young. We was probably like 17 at the time. Yeah, like 17. So I'm like, I was young. So at the time, like, I could go places and do stuff. But like going on dates and all that type of stuff with a whole bunch of different dudes going places, like, that wasn't me. Like, unless we was really together in a relationship, I won't really go nowhere with you by myself. So he like, it don't even really have to be a date. He was like, you could bring your friends, I could bring my friends, we could just link up with whoever and just have a good time or whatever, like, type stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I told my friends, like, we going to the movies this weekend with Cool and his friends or whatever. Like, y'all can bring y'all booze, whoever y'all talk to, whoever y'all want to bring, but just know we got some plans this weekend. So my friends, I'm gonna say their real names because they don't care about me saying their real names. It's only one person that got something to do with this story time that I'm gonna give her a nickname to. So Jasmine is my one close friend. She always used to be on my house all the time around this time. Like, literally, like, if you saw me out, you saw her right beside me. Like, it was never a time that you didn't see me without her or her without me. So she always used to be on my house all the time and stuff. So she like, well, I'm already be over your house this weekend, like, type stuff. So yeah, so Sakita, which her name is gonna be Kiki, I'm gonna call her Kiki. Kiki, she was like, okay, well, I got some stuff to do this weekend or whatever, but I'm gonna meet y'all to the movies, like, type stuff. I'm gonna just meet y'all there. So we're like, okay, cool. Well, yeah, the other friend, I'm gonna give her nickname now. Her nickname gonna be Phony, because the bitch is phony. So Phony, she like, well, yeah, I'm gonna come over and stuff like that before the time and we just all go up there together. So I'm like, okay, cool. So fast forward to the weekend, and the weekend come and Jazz over my house. Mind y'all, me and Cool have had no, I mean, me and Crazy, we have not had no conversations, like, in this whole entire 2.5 months that we wasn't talking, we never had no conversations. We never, like, he never text me or to check up on me, nothing like that, because usually when we break up, he'd be texting me like good morning still, or like telling me to have a good day and stuff like that. But no, like, this time when we broke up, I told him like, I'm done, I'm not doing none of that being cool stuff or none of that, because I told y'all, like, he was real manipulative. So manipulative, whatever, I'm just gonna say however, he was real, you know, that. So when we would break up, he'd be like, well, can we still be friends, like, can we still be cool, like, type stuff, to, you know, have access to, like, still text me, mess with me type stuff. But that time that we broke up, I told him like, no, it's not none of that, like, if we gonna break up, we're done, like, type stuff. So we never had no conversations, like, in between this whole entire time. So the day comes for the date, right? And you know, me and Jazz, she spent the night at my house. And so we wake up, we getting dressed, you know, doing what girls do, doing our makeup, getting our hair, picking out our outfits, stuff like that, doing last minute stuff. So we vibing out or whatever, you know. I'm happy, like, I'm excited, because I'm like, yeah, like, I'm out of a toxic relationship, I'm finna go on a date, like, yeah. So so I'm like, I'm just happy, like, I'm just vibing, got my little music on, all that type of stuff, you know. So I had stepped out my room for a minute, and my phone was hooked up to the speaker. And so, you know, when your phone is hooked up to the speaker and somebody get to calling you, or you start getting notifications, if you don't turn your phone on silent, like, it's gonna interrupt the music, like, type stuff. So when I stepped out my room, the music had cut off. So I had yelled to ask Jazz, I'm like, my phone ringing? She like, yeah. So I come in my room, I pick up the phone and look at it, and it's crazy. So I looked at Jazz, I'm like, bitch. She like, well, I'm like, crazy is calling me. She like, for what? I'm like, exactly, because like I said, like, we didn't talk like that whole entire time. So I'm like, what you calling me for? So I'm like, no. I'm like, he's not finna ruin my day. Like, this day is finna go as planned. Like, he not finna ruin my day or none of that. Like, no, I'm finna ignore him. So I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because I'm like, heck no, you're not finna sit up here and ruin my day. Like, no. So I get back to minding my business, doing what I was doing, getting dressed. And so a little bit time go after that, and Jazz, she like, girl, what the fuck? I'm like, what? She like, crazy texting my phone. So Crazy and Jazz, they kind of like family in some type of way. So I'm like, for what, like, type stuff. And she like, girl, talk about some have you saw Tanaja, all that type of stuff. Like, I've been calling her, text her, she not answering her phone, and all of this. Mind y'all, like I said, me and Jazz was together all the time. So he knew that me and Jazz was together. Like, he knew that we was together. But she was like, I'ma just lie and say that I'm not with you, like, I haven't saw you, I haven't talked to you, like, type stuff. Even though he was gonna know that that was a lie, because like I said, we was together 24/7, like, literally. So she texted him back, and she like, no, I haven't saw her, I haven't heard from her, like, type stuff or whatever. I think she helping her mama today, because this is important too. My mom, she would used to help out at the school, because she's a volleyball coach for my school and some other stuff. So she was in charge of the homecoming for that year. So she like, no, I haven't talked to her. So he like, okay, if you talk to her, or if you get a hold of her or whatever, like, let me know. And she like, okay, I will. Lying. So 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 yeah, so time go by or whatever, we still getting dressed and stuff like that. I finally pick up my phone, right? I kid y'all not. Tell me why I had like 100 missed calls, 50 missed FaceTime calls, 200 missed texts, and all type of stuff from Crazy. Like, he was blowing my phone up. And this is exactly why I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because I'm like, you're not finna ruin my day. Like, I don't have time for this crazy stuff. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for it. So that's exactly why I had put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So I put my phone right back on do not disturb because I'm like, I'm not finna reply to him. Like, I don't have time to be playing these games with him today. So I put my phone back on do not disturb and got back to minding my business once again. So it was about, okay, me and Jazz, we had started getting dressed, I want to say around like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because we was leaving to go to the movies around like 8. So time passed by and it's probably about like 6 o'clock, and so Phony, she calls me and she like, I'm finna be on my way, unlock the door, because Phony, she literally lived only right around the corner from me. So she like, open the door, I'm finna be on my way. So every time Phony would come over to my house, she would always call me and tell me to unlock the door. So I went to go unlock the door or whatever, and we was waiting for her to come. We like, okay, we done getting dressed, stuff like that. Like, now we just taking pictures on Snapchat, being cute, da da da. And we like, we just gonna wait till time passed, because mind y'all, it was like 6. So by time, like, you know, Phony would have finished getting herself together and been on her way to my house, it would have been almost like 6:20, 6:30, like type stuff. So as me and Jazz is sitting there, like, you know, waiting, we hear a knock on the door. And so we just both stopped and looked at each other like, what the fuck? So I had text Phony, I'm like, you outside? She like, no, not yet, I'm finna pull up though. Like, she like, I'm finna pull up though. So I'm like, Jazz, I'm like, Phony just said that she not outside yet. Like, she still finna pull up in a minute. Like, she not outside. So she like, then who at the door? Because mind y'all, Jazz was with me all the time. So she knew wasn't none of my family popping up without a phone call. Wasn't nobody popping up over my house without a phone call. If I knew that you was coming over, I knew that you was coming over. Like, don't nobody ever just pop up at my house but one person. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I go to the door and I look at the little peephole. I turn around, I'm like, bitch, it's crazy. She like, it's crazy at the door? Like, he outside? I'm like, bitch, yes, like, come look. So we all tiptoeing, whispering and stuff. Like, I'm telling her, like, to look. So she looked through the peephole. She like, girl, what the fuck? She was like, why he over here? Why he just pop up over here? I'm like, girl, I'm like, he do stuff like this all the time. I'm like, but I didn't think that he was going to pull something like that, because, like I said, we haven't talked or whatever, like, so it's like, why are you here, like, type stuff. So I instantly text Phony and I'm like, bitch, I'm like, Crazy is outside my door. I'm like, I don't want to lock the door back. I'm like, because if I lock the door back, I'm like, he's going to hear it and he's going to know that I'm home. I'm like, because Jasmine told him that I was out helping my mama. I'm like, so he probably don't think that nobody here. So I'm like, if he's still at the door when you pull up, I said, walk around, because I lived in like a apartment complex. So I told him, I'm like, I'm like, walk around to the other side and like wait in the back until like he leave or whatever. Like, whatever you do, just don't let him in the house. So she like, okay. So Jazz, she like, bitch, I gotta hide. And I'm like, you gotta hide? What you gotta hide for? She like, bitch, because I told him that I wasn't here. She was like, so if he walk in and see that I'm here, like, what the fuck? I'm like, girl, he ain't nobody. Like, no. She like, She was like, that's just awkward. She was like, I gotta hide. So she ran into my mama room or whatever, and I'm super trying to find a way to, like, you know, get him to leave. So I had text Kiki. I'm like, bitch, where you at or whatever? And she like, I'm still getting dressed or whatever. Like, Kiki take the longest time to get dressed. So she like, I'm still getting dressed. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know what's finna happen. I said, because Crazy just popped up at my house and I'm like, he outside my door or whatever. I said, we gonna try to like stall or whatever. So then like when I leave out, like I'm walking out. Like, so if he's still out there, the plan was, if he was still out there when it was time for us to go, I was just gonna walk straight out or whatever. So if he would have tried to like stop me, talk to me type stuff, I would be like, I gotta go. So she like, all right, like just let me know what's going on. So I'm like, okay. So I hear the door open. So I step outside my room, and here come Phony and Crazy walking in the door. And so I'm looking like, what the fuck? Like, I'm looking at her like, bitch, didn't I just motherfucking tell your ass to not sit up here and let him in? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And so, mind y'all, around this time, it was about like, it was finna go on like 7 o'clock. So it was about time for us to like leave, like type stuff. So, so yeah. So I'm like, what are you doing? So as soon as Crazy walk in the house, he all yelling. He like, dang, do you don't see me calling your phone? You don't see me texting your phone? Da da da, like just popping off at the mouth. And I'm just looking at him like, shut the fuck up. I'm just irritated. Like when I say I went from here to here in like 0.5 seconds, because I'm just like, bro, this whole day was going so smooth. I'm like, right before we finna go, this happened? Are you serious? So I'm like, okay. So I just told him, I'm like, you need to go. I'm like, because I don't know why you're here, for one. Like, you obviously see that I'm not texting you back. I'm not calling you back. Like, what are you here for? He like, we need to talk and all that type of stuff, you know, trying to pull that nigga shit. Talk about we need to talk and he just want to work things out and da 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 da. I told y'all, like, he was manipulative. So he used to just like say stuff like that all the time, like he want to get back together and he want to talk and all that type of stuff, you know, just pulling nigga shit. So I'm like, no, like you need to go. Like we haven't talked in like 2 months. Like would you, like it's no reason for you to be here, because I already knew what his plan was. His plan was that he found out somehow that I was talking to Cool, and he didn't want me talking to him or messing around with him, so he was going to try to do something to make Cool want to stop talking to me, like type stuff. So I'm like, no, like that's not gonna happen. Like, no, you be on some weird stuff. No. So I walked to my room. I'm getting ready. I'm like putting my stuff on. I put my shoes on. I put my purse on, stuff like that. I grab my jacket. I'm like, you need to leave. I'm like, because I'm finna go. Like, yeah, I'm finna go. Like, you need to leave. So he like, I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going nowhere. You not going nowhere either until we talk. So I'm like, no, like it's not no reason for us to talk. Like, no, like you need to leave. So he like, no, I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going nowhere. Da 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 da. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, you can stay here. Like, I don't care. All I know is I'm not staying here. So I look at Phony and I'm like, bitch, first of all, bitch, I'm like, why did you let him in? Like, I clearly told you to not let him in. Like, I told you to wait until we was finna leave, like, type stuff. She like, girl, I wasn't finna stand outside for all that time, da 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 da. And she was like, I tried to, like, stop him from coming in. He like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Don't even lie. So I look at her like, really, bitch? Really? So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I get ready to walk out my room, and he slammed the door. He like, you not going nowhere. So I'm sitting there fighting with him, you know, to unlock the door, like to open the door, like type stuff, like move, like we going back and forth, like move, like no, like get on, like type stuff. So next thing you know, I get a text from Jazz, and she like, I'll be right back. So I'm like, what you mean you'll be right back? So she like, I'll be right back. I gotta go do something real quick before we go. So I'm like, no. I'm like, you need to help me. Like, help me. Because I told y'all, like, it was going on like 7 o'clock. So it was time for us to like leave to get ready to go to the movie. So I'm like, no, you need to help me. Like, are you crazy? Like, don't leave me here. Because first of all, I'm here with Crazy. And then I'm here with Phony. This bitch definitely not finna help me. Like, what? Don't leave me. So yeah, so I'm like, so she like, I'll be right back, I promise. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So she leave. Next thing you know, Cool texts me. He like, what you doing? I'm like, finna be on my way, you know, like lying, like finna be on my way. I'll meet you there. I'll see you there soon. He like, okay, cool. So Meanwhile, crazy, he's still in my ear, babbling on, like, I just want to talk. We can work things out, da 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 da. I'm like, no. So, I'm just yelling at Phony while he yelling at me. I'm yelling at Phony, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, whose side are you on? Like, if I clearly told you to wait outside until it was time to go, why didn't you not wait outside? Like, type stuff. Like, why would you do that? Keep this in your mind, because this is gonna make sense in the meanwhile. So I'm like, just why would you do that? So I'm just irritated. Like, I'm beyond irritated, because I'm like, this was not how today was supposed to go. Like, it's just not how today was supposed to go. Like, I don't understand. Like, no. So time go by a little bit, and Cool texts me again. He like, okay, I'm finna be on my way up there. So I'm like, I text him back like, okay, me too. Lying. So
you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
I'm like, so I'm telling Cool, I'm telling Crazy, I'm like, you gotta go, like, seriously, like, you gotta go. Like, I'm not finna do this with you. Like, if you want to talk another day or when I get back or anything, like, that's fine. I'm like, but I'm not finna do this with you. Meanwhile, I'm lying, because I'm like, it ain't in my head. I'm like, it's not no reason for us to talk. But like I said, he was manipulative, so I had to play the same games that he used to play. So I used to have to tell him stuff to make it seem like I was going along with him or agreeing with him or whatever, so he can like leave me alone sometimes. So okay, my phone died, but okay, we're back. Basically, Cool had texted me and told me like he was on his way, like, type stuff. And so I'm like, what the fuck? So I text Jazz. I'm like, Cool just text me and told me that he's on his way. So she's like, okay, I'm finna be headed back. So mind y'all, this whole time, Crazy just still in my ear, just la 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 la, just going off about stuff that I don't care about. So I'm just telling him like, okay, what do you want to talk about? Like, what do you want to talk about? Because I told y'all, like, I had to play his games. Like, I had to act like, you know, I was trying to work stuff out, or like, you know, like, or whatever. So I'm like, okay, what do you want to talk about or whatever? And he like, I just want to get back together. Like, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do this fighting no more. Da da da. Like, just trying to sweet talk me. So I'm like, oh, okay, like, okay, maybe we could work something out. Da 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 da. Like, all that type of stuff. So I'm like, but right now, I gotta go. So he like, no, you're not going nowhere. You're not doing no. He just started going crazy. So I had like a little makeup chair. And so he was sitting in my makeup chair. And so I started pulling him by his damn head. I'm like, get the fuck up. Like, I'm yelling at him. I'm like, get up. Like, get out. Like, we sitting here tussling, going back and forth a little bit. Now, okay, let me clear something up though. We was toxic, but we wasn't abusive. Like, it wasn't to the point where like we'd be putting our hands on each other or stuff like that, you know. Just, no, it was nothing like that. He wasn't that crazy, okay? So yeah, but I'm sitting here tugging him. I'm like, get up, like, get out my face. Like, at this point, I'm mad, and when I get mad, I just say reckless stuff. I do reckless stuff. I do and then think later or whatever. So I was sitting here pulling him by his damn near by his scalp, because he had like a little fro at that time. So I'm pulling him by his scalp. I'm like, get up, like, get out my face, like, get out, like, type stuff. Because I'm like, you finna irritate me. Like, I'm irritated. You finna irritate me. Like, I'm finna get mad. Like, just leave. So he steady yelling. So I just want to talk. I just want to talk. Da 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 da. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So next thing you know, Cool starts calling me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So Crazy, as soon as he heard my phone ring, he instantly looked. He like, give it to me. I'm like, no. He like, give it to me. I'm like, no. So he snatches my phone, answers it, and he like, yeah, whoever this is, she not going nowhere. She not coming. So don't be looking forward to it. And hung up. And at this point, I'm like,
hell no, to the no, hell to the no.
No, the fuck? You just didn't do that. Like, no, you just did not do that. Like, what is wrong with you? So mind y'all, I didn't have a password on my phone at that time. So he takes my phone and walks out the door. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because of course I didn't care if he was like, you know, if like he saw who I was texting or talking to, but I was sneak dissing him. Like I was talking about him to my best friend, and mind you, my best friend is a boy, and him like he didn't like Crazy didn't like my best friend. Like he didn't want me to be best friends with him because he was a boy, and like I told y'all, like he was just real possessive and crazy and stuff like that. So he didn't like him. Like he used to try and like get into him, just be weird towards him. So like he didn't like him. So I already knew the first thing he was going to go through was me and his messages, because he swore up and down that me and my best friend used to talk and mess around with each other, which we didn't. We never did. Like none of that. We was strictly just best friends. So I already knew he was finna go through our messages and he was finna see me talking about him. And like I didn't care that I was talking about him, but it's like, dang, like you finna see all the stuff I was saying. Like I was saying some bold stuff about him. And so he literally takes my phone, he started running. So I started running too. He runs to the front door and opens up the door. I don't have no shoes on. Now I'm sitting here trying to run outside after him. He gets in his car and pulls off with my phone. So I'm just like, bro, I'm so over this. Like I am over this. Like I am tired. I'm like, if I have to deal with any more of this, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like I'm gonna go crazy. So after probably like about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, he come back. He throw my phone on the bed. He like, so you was talking about me to your best friend? And I'm just sitting there like, low-key trying not to laugh, because I'm like, well, that's what you get. Like, what did you send for taking my phone and running from? Like, what did you think you was gonna accomplish? Like, we not together. I don't care if you see who I'm texting, if I talk to. If you want to know that bad, like, I don't care, like, type stuff. I'm like, but that's your fault, because now your feelings hurt because you saw the stuff that I said about you. I don't care. You should never did that. So after that, he was pissed. Like he was pissed. Like, this is what you do to me, da 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 da. Like, I can't believe you so fake. Like, you was never real, saying all this stuff. And I'm just looking at him like, do you forget? Like, do you have amnesia about the stuff that you do? Like, are you crazy? Like, I mean, never mind, he was crazy, but I'm like, are you slow? Like, are you dumb? Like, what? So yeah, so I grabbed my phone off the bed and I text Cool back. I'm like, I'm so sorry about this. Like, I really did not know what was finna go on today. Like, I'm so sorry about this, because it's like I didn't want Cool to feel like I was like standing him up, because that's basically what it was. Like, I was standing him up because time was passing. It was past 8 o'clock. Like, it was like 8:30, like finna be 9 o'clock. Time was already passing. Like, and I wasn't making it to the movie, so I just didn't want him to feel like I was standing him up. But it's like, how am I going to sit here and explain to him that my ex-boyfriend popped up at my house and is holding me hostage? Like, if you tell somebody that, they're gonna be like, girl, what? Like, come on now, like, what? But no, like, that was really happening. So next thing you know, when when I was on the phone, when I was texting Cool back, he was like, yeah, he was like, I see that you're not gonna make it. He was like, I'm just finna go. He was like, your friend was here or whatever, it's here too. He was like, but I'm finna go. So I'm like, shit. I'm like, I forgot about Kiki. So mind y'all, my phone was on do not disturb all the way from earlier that day. So I put my phone off and like take it off do not disturb, and I started looking at my messages. I had so many missed calls from Kiki and text messages in the group chat from her, and she was pissed. She like, I'm up here, I got dropped off, and now y'all not here, and now I don't have no way home, because she was supposed to be riding back with us. So she's like, nah, I don't have no way home. So I'm like, what the heck? So I told Jazz. So I text Jazz. Mind y'all, Jazz supposed to be on her way back to the house a long time ago. She never came back. So I text her and I'm like, you gotta go up to the movies and pick up Kiki. I said, because it's obvious that we're not going no more. And I'm like, so you gotta go pick up Kiki or she's going to be stranded. So she went to go pick up Kiki, and mind y'all, just crazy, just steady in my ear, just sitting there looking dumb. And Phony is sitting in there in the living room like ain't nothing going on. Like, she just sitting here listening to us yell and argue and me pull on his damn hair and tell him to get out and all that type of stuff. She just sitting in the living room like just chilling, like ain't nothing going on. So I'm like, bro, like when I tell y'all I wanted to beat that bitch ass so bad that night, like bro, I was so pissed. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I was just so pissed at her. So hours pass. It's about 10 o'clock. At this time, I was happy because I knew it was finna go on 11 o'clock, and I mean my mom was finna be home. So in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, when my mom come home, she gonna be looking at crazy like, why are you here? Like, it's late. Like, when we was together, he used to come around my house and stuff like that. But sometimes like he would have to leave at certain times. Sometimes she didn't care. But he did used to be over. So I'm like, by the time she get back, I'm like, it's gonna be a little late. I'm like, she gonna be tired. She gonna be wanting to go to sleep. I'm like, so she gonna tell him that he gotta go. Yes. So it gets to 11 o'clock, and I just finally hear the keys rattling in the door, unlocking the door. And I'm just in my head like, yes, she finna tell him to go home. Like, she finna tell him to leave. Like, yes. She walk in my room. She like, hey, crazy. What you doing? What y'all doing? And I'm looking at her like, what? I'm trying to mouth her like, tell him to leave. Like, tell him to go. Like, I'm trying to whisper her like, tell him to leave. Like, type stuff. So, as she like, what y'all doing? He like, oh, nothing. Just chilling. And I'm sitting up here steady trying to get my mama signals, like, tell him to leave, like, tell him to get out, like, type stuff. I'm mouthing to her, like, tell him to leave, like, type stuff. So I guess that she didn't understand what I was saying, because she closed my door and she walked away. And so a couple minutes later, she texted me back and was like, what was you trying to say? I'm like, I was trying to tell you to tell him to leave, like, you know, type stuff, like to tell him to go. And so she like, oh, shoot, I'm gone already. I'm like, what you mean gone already? She like, I left. I gotta go to the grocery store. Mind y'all, it was 11 o'clock at night. I knew she was lying. I already know where she was finna go. She wasn't finna go to no grocery store because she never came back that night. So I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, that was my only chance of getting away. Like, I'm just like, okay. I'm like, clearly, I'm not going nowhere. Like he said, I'm stuck in this room, him. I'm like, I'm not going to the movies no more. I'm like, so, whatever. I might as well just play his little game, talk to him, act like we back fake cool, and then just not text him back tomorrow. So I just finally comply with him, and I'm like, what do you want to talk about? Like, whatever. Like, I don't care no more. Like, I'm irritated, I'm fed up. What do you want to talk about? So of course he go on trying to work stuff out and all that type of stuff. So Jazz finally comes back with Kiki, and so I hear them come in. She comes to open my door. She like, bro, y'all still in here? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, where have you been, Miss Bitch? Like, hello? Like, I've been here stranded and you've been out there having the time of your life. Like, where have you been? So, she like, don't you think, like, if she don't want to talk to you, like, you should just leave, like, type stuff? He like, I already said that I'm not going nowhere. So I'm like, girl, I'm like, just stop asking questions. I'm like, because he keeps saying the same thing over and over and over. And so she like, you want me, she was like, you want us to go or you want us to stay here? So I'm like, I want y'all to stay here. Like, no, like, don't leave me here by myself. Like, I want y'all to stay. So she like, okay, well, she was like, we're gonna be in the living room or whatever. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So like I said, I'm just playing along with cool, and I'm just talking to him or whatever, trying to make it seem like we back cool. And so he asked me, he like, you want to go get something to eat? And I got skeptical because I'm like, something to eat? Like, first of all, I've been in this room locked up with you all day because you've been holding me hostage. And now you think that I'm finna get in the car and go with you to get something to eat? Yeah, I am. So let's go. Like, I was hungry, okay? Like, don't judge me. Y'all probably thinking like you like that toxic stuff because I will him. But no, like I said, he was crazy, but he wasn't that crazy to the point where I feel like he was gonna like really put me in harm or like, you know, try and murder me or something crazy like that. Like, I knew he wasn't gonna be on nothing crazy like that. He just used to do little weird stuff sometimes. But yeah, I know he wasn't that crazy. So I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking in my head, like, you know, sit up here and have me locked up in this room all day and you think that you're not gonna give me some food or something? Like, let's go. So we went out the room, and so Jazz, Kiki, and Phony, they looking at me like what's going on? Like, where y'all finna go? And I'm like, we finna go get something to eat. Y'all want something? So they like, no, we good or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll be right back. So when I told them that, me and my friends, every time we go somewhere, we always send each other our locations. So I text the group chat, I'm like, watch my location. So me and him, we went to go get some food, went to the gas station, we came back to the house. So he just sitting there, we just all sitting there. He's sitting there like everything just all fine and cool. Because mind you, I told y'all, like, I'm just playing around, like playing along with him, making it seem like everything cool. So Cool did not text me back. Like, after I had texted him and apologized and stuff like that, he didn't text me back. So I just felt so bad because I'm like, I did not want him to feel like I stood him up. Like, I wouldn't want the feeling of somebody standing me up. I'm like, so I didn't want him to feel like that because he was cool, like, you know. So I'm like, that's the main part that irritated me. Like, that's so bold. And I'm like, he didn't text me back. So I'm like, whatever. So it was probably like, I think 3 o'clock in the morning when Crazy finally left. And so he like, I'm gonna call you when I get home. So I'm like, okay. Like, I wasn't gonna answer, and I didn't answer or whatever because I was just thinking about Cool. I'm like, dang, like, that's real messed up. Like, I was just irritated at that the whole rest of the night. So the next morning, Cool finally had texted me back, and he like, bro, he was like, what happened? He was like, because I don't believe that. And I'm like, bro, like, you clearly saw that he answered my phone for me. Like, if I would have knew he was finna do that, like, if I would have knew any of that was finna go on, like, I would have prevented it. Like, I would have stopped it or whatever. And so I basically had explained to Cool, like, what happened or whatever and stuff like that. And he be doing stuff like that. I'm like, yes. Like, anybody that I have ever told, like, talk to them about Crazy and like told him that the stuff that like we went through and like the stuff that he would do, like, they would literally be looking at me like, not crazy. And I'm like, yes, Crazy, like, yes. And he always seems so cool and laid back when I see him and stuff like that. It don't seem like he be doing stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm like, well, he putting on the show for one of us. I'm like, because the shit that I done saw him do, I guess, but okay. But anyways, moral of the story, y'all ready for this plot twist? Are y'all ready for this plot twist? Because it's gonna lead to another story time. Basically, remember earlier in the story time when me and Cool was having a conversation and we said that we didn't tell nobody but our friends that we talked? If y'all smart, I'm pretty sure y'all put this together already. But basically, come to find out, I did end up talking to Crazy after like the fact of, you know, all of that had happened. Probably like, I want to say like 2 weeks later, that's when we had like start back talking or whatever. And he told me that Phony was telling him everything. He said that he would text Phony and ask her like who I would be talking to, what I would be doing, like, type stuff, and she would tell him. So basically, she told him that we was going to the movies that weekend with Cool and his friends. So he set it up to say like, okay, well, I'm gonna come over there like before y'all go, like type stuff or whatever. Like he probably didn't tell her his exact plan, but he had it in his head like, okay, well, she thinks she finna go to the movies, so but no, she not, because I'm finna pop up over there, like type stuff. So the whole time, Crazy was basically getting information out of Phony, and Phony was telling him everything that he asked. Like, so I'm like, really? Okay. So I text Phony in a group chat. I'm like, so what makes you think that it's okay for you to be sitting up here going to tell Crazy stuff about me? Like, that's not cool. Like, he don't need to know who I'm texting or who I'm talking to. Like, who friend are you? Like, whose side are you on? Like, why are you sitting up here going and telling him information about me? Like, that don't make sense. And so she like, I just really thought that he just be wanting to check on you and stuff like that, and I just feel like y'all should work things out and y'all should just get back together and stuff like that. I'm like, first of all, that's not your thing to call, because like I said, I went through some shit with him. So I'm like, that's not your place to call. No, you know, that's not your place to call shit. So for you to be sitting up here going behind my back doing stuff like that, like, that's bold as fuck. Like, that's two-faced as fuck. Like, that's phony as fuck. Like, no, you don't do stuff like that. So basically, I had to stop talking to her for a while or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, no, like, that's fake. Like, I wouldn't sit up here and do that. And plus, Phony, she was the type of bitch. She didn't know her boundaries. Like, she didn't know her boundaries, like, at all. Like, we always used to have to tell her, like, no, you know you don't do stuff like that. Or, like, no, you know that's wrong. Like, you know that's bold. Like, we always just have to be telling her stuff like that. So I had stopped talking to her for a while. But I had ended up back talking to her because she was the type of friend, like, me and my other two friends, we will fall on and off with her a lot. So it was a lot of times that she didn't used to be around, or like she didn't used to be with us and stuff, because she was a phony bitch. And like I said, that leads to another story time. So I feel like this one was a little boring, but I just had to like tell this one so I could tell the next one so it can make sense. But if y'all enjoyed it, which I hope y'all did, but yeah, if y'all enjoyed this story time, let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe, and also follow me on my IG, which my name will be put at the top of the video. And so yeah, if y'all like this story time, y'all better tune in for the next one, because the next one I'm dropping a real tea. Okay.